I grew up admiring what the left used to be. The left that fought for workers, the left that distrusted corporate power, the left that valued truth more than slogans. Believe it or not, there was a time when being liberal meant defending the unpopular, not because it was easy, but because it was right. But somewhere between the counterculture and the corporate boardroom, something changed. The left stopped fighting power and started selling it. What was once a movement for the working class became a movement for the elites. The factory worker replaced by the celebrity. The dissident became the consultant. The Democratic Party, the one that once stood for union halls and kitchen tables, now hosts galas for hedge fund owners and Silicon Valley billionaires. It is no longer the party of grit and labor. It is the party of the elite in moral theater. With that being said, thank you for joining me. We're going to go over what I believe are the major flaws in the modern Democratic Party. Thank you. Cue the intro. Somewhere along the line, the left stopped asking questions and started enforcing answers. They traded skepticism for dogma. In the 1960s, the left's heroes were truth seekers: Baldwin, Chomsky, Foucault, people who tore down illusions. Today's left doesn't want the truth, it wants control. The rebels of yesterday became the bureaucrats of today. They call it progress, but progress towards what exactly? What I see isn't evolution, it's a regression into a kind of moral feudalism. There's a new clergy now: journalists, academics, and blue check moderators enforcing ideological orthodoxy the way priests once enforced theology. To question them is heresy, to disagree is to be damned, and if you speak too loudly, they'll burn you, not with fire, but through cancellation. Orwell once wrote, "In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." The tragedy is that the left, which once lived by that very creed, now persecutes anyone who dares to live it. The left didn't just lose its soul, it completely sold it. It sold it for likes, for access, for relevance into our lives. Once, liberals distrusted propaganda, now they're the ones manufacturing it. Once, progressives fought monopolies, now they defend them tooth and nail. Once, the left feared state power, now it worships it. I mean, look around. Genuinely ask yourself, who controls the flow of information? Who censors? Who deplatforms? Who debanks? Who decides what you are allowed to think and say? And I'll give you a hint here. It's not oil companies or televangelists anymore. It's Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and the Ivy League schools, or as I like to call it, the cultural wing of the Democratic Party. This new left doesn't want equality. It wants obedience wrapped in a moral language. And worst of all, it still tricks you into thinking that it's the hero of the story. Revolutions always die the same way, when they start policing thought instead of pursuing truth. The American left wasn't corrupted by its enemies. No, it was hollowed out by its own success, by the comfort of being in power for far too long. The revolution didn't end, it just started eating itself. When people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. And that's exactly what happened to the modern left. They abandoned the idea of sin and redemption, only to recreate both in secular form. Racism, privilege, and bias became the new sins. Allyship, reparations, and awareness became the new sacraments. And redemption? That only comes through public confession, a lifetime subscription to guilt with no forgiveness clause. The great irony is that the left didn't escape religion, but it built a new one, only one without grace. At least Christianity offered forgiveness. Progressivism offers compliance. And if you step out of line, the congregation doesn't pray for you, they destroy you. What was once the Enlightenment's greatest triumph, the freedom to think independently, has been replaced by an algorithmic moral order. This isn't a movement anymore. It's a faith, and it demands your soul. Virtue used to be a compass, now it's a costume. The left has mastered the art of appearing moral while doing nothing moral at all. Post a black square, you've done your part. Buy the right coffee cup, you've changed the world. Denounce someone online, you're on the right side of history. It's performative ethics, morality is marketing. And it's not about saving the world, it's about saving face. The Greeks defined virtue as courage to act rightly, even when it cost you something. Today, virtue means saying the right thing when everyone else is watching you. It's moral cowardice disguised as empathy. Nietzsche warned, "Beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster." The left forgot that lesson. It built a culture so obsessed with purity that it now resembles the very systems of oppression that it claimed to fight against. There's a reason revolutions devour their own. Purity doesn't stop at the enemy's door. Once you start defining goodness by conformity, even your allies become threats. The modern left has no mechanism for forgiveness. If you apologize, you're guilty. If you stay silent, you're complicit. If you defend yourself, you're doubling down. Every path leads to damnation, and the mob loves a good public execution. The guillotine has been replaced with a quote tweet. The denunciation is now digital and permanent. What's tragic is that so many of these people really mean well, and I know you know that. They think that they really are purging evil. But the more they purge, the less human they become. A movement without grace cannot heal, it can only consume. Once upon a time, the left truly distrusted corporations. Now they are those very corporations. Nike tells you, believe in something, while using child labor. Disney lectures you about inclusion while lobbying for tax loopholes. Amazon runs diversity workshops while crushing unions. Corporations realized they didn't need to fight cultural revolutions. They could just sponsor them. Diversity cost less than raising wages. Sustainability cost less than cleaning rivers. Antonio Gramsci warned that culture was more powerful than capital, so capital captured culture. They didn't crush rebellion, they monetized it. That's why Amazon tweets about justice while crushing unions. That's why Nike sells equality made in sweatshops. That's why Google funds activism while selling your privacy online. The left thinks it's fighting capitalism, but in reality, it's working for it. Outrage used to be a symptom of injustice, and now it's straight up a business model. The media doesn't inform anymore, it inflames, because anger keeps you watching, fear keeps you scrolling, and nothing sells better than moral panic. Every story you hear is about saints and sinners. There is always a dichotomy, black and white. Every tweet, a miniature crusade. You're not supposed to think, you're supposed to react. Politicians have learned this too. They don't need to solve problems anymore, they just need to go viral. The economy of outrage has no interest in fixing anything because peace doesn't sell ads. The left didn't just lose the information war, they monetized it. Be kind. That's the slogan the left always reverts back to justify their horrific actions. But what they really mean is be complacent. Real compassion is hard. It requires forgiveness, listening, and sacrifice. The left replaced it with selective empathy, love for only those who agree with you. It's compassion as a currency, a way to buy moral superiority without doing anything. They brand their empathy, they sell their outrage, and they call it activism. And people are beginning to see through it. When every tragedy becomes a headline, empathy becomes performance. When every cause becomes a brand, morality becomes a business. And what we're left with isn't kindness, it's control. And thank God people are starting to resist. The purity spiral rewards extremism and punishes nuance. Always. You can't question. You can't evolve. You can only conform. Every day, someone gets purged for failing the latest ideological test. It's not politics, it's moral self mutilation. The left doesn't need enemies, it continuously manufactures them itself. You can watch it in real time, a movement devouring itself to prove that it's still pure. The irony is that it all started as a call for justice, each one of these individual spirals. But justice without mercy becomes vengeance, and vengeance disguised as virtue will eat a society alive. Another massive problem I see with the left is how it deals with masculinity. For decades, the left has treated masculinity like a problem that needs to be fixed. But masculinity isn't the problem. It's a force that needs direction. When you shame men for being strong, ambitious, and stoic, you don't make them better, you make them lost. You get a generation of young men who feel useless, disposable, and unwanted. Civilization depends on balance, masculine order and feminine compassion working together in unison. The modern left shattered that balance and replaced it with resentment. Now, the same culture that mocks men cries out for leaders. You can't destroy half of human nature and expect the species to thrive. Once upon a time, a liberal was the consensus of democracy. He believed in freedom of speech, debate, and reason. Now, even the word liberal has been hijacked. It used to mean free thought. Now it means approved thought. The left that once said, question everything, now says comply or else. Argument is violence. Censorship is safety. The great irony is that the people who once fought McCarthyism are now the ones practicing it. They've replaced the open forum with the digital blacklist, and in doing so, they've killed the very spirit that made them relevant in the first place. The modern left weaponized empathy completely. It uses compassion not to connect, but to control. They build bureaucracies of kindness, systems that measure virtue by compliance. They call it inclusion, but it's really moral segregation. Disagree, and you're no longer a person. You are the problem. Real compassion costs you something. The left's version costs nothing because it isn't real. They've mistaken emotions for ethics and control for care. And the result is a culture addicted to pity and allergic to the truth. Every empire of moral arrogance collapses under its own stupidity. The same people who chant believe science deny biology. The same people who say defend democracy actively silence speech. The same people who fight for the poor literally live off of corporate donations. When words mean everything, they eventually mean nothing. The left's greatest tragedy isn't hypocrisy, it's hubris. It believed it was immune to the same corruption it condemned. But history doesn't play favorites. When you turn politics into a religion and dissent into a sin, collapse is always inevitable. I don't hate the left. I mourn what it could have been. A movement that once championed the voiceless now speaks only for itself. But this isn't just their fault, it's all of ours. Because when one side loses its mind, the other loses its mirror. We become reflections of each other's worst instincts. The left's collapse should be a warning. Every ideology that forgets it's human eventually becomes a machine. Every movement that worships itself ends up devouring its own. So maybe the answer isn't left or right. Maybe it's simply real. Truth without branding, compassion without control, freedom without permission. Because if the left once fought to liberate the individual, and the right now fights to preserve him, then maybe it's time we stop choosing sides and start choosing sanity. All right. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think. I have been busy, and I've had some weird camera issues. So, that's why I haven't made a video in 2 weeks. Yikes! I need to get back on that. But I got a whole bunch of scripts written. I was just kind of waiting for this situation to get figured out. But let me know. I feel passionate about this, and I'm a libertarian, so I don't care about the left and I don't care about the right. And I'm not pushing a certain agenda except for little L libertarianism. I'll maybe make a video about that. But thank you. Comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think.